All right, today we're going to dive into something called the attraction effect. It's this idea that maybe, just maybe, our reality isn't just a bunch of random accidents, but that it's actually a direct reflection of what's going on inside us. Let's see how this whole thing works.
I mean, seriously, what if the world isn't just happening to you? What if it's responding from you? Just thinking about that one question is the key to everything we're about to unpack. It completely changes the game.
And to really get a handle on this, we're going to follow the journey of this person named Eli. See, Eli felt like a lot of us do sometimes, like he was doing everything right but was just spinning his wheels. His story is basically the blueprint for understanding this. So let's start right where Eli started, staring into that frustrating gap between putting in all this positive effort and getting pretty much zero results.
This was Eli's whole problem right here. He was meditating, he was reading all the books, he was literally writing affirmations every single morning. I attract abundance. Opportunities flow to me. Sound familiar to anyone? Yeah, but his reality just wasn't budging.
And this shows that disconnect so perfectly. Over on one side, you have all the positive things he's putting in, the affirmations, the self-help, the positive mindset, but then you look at the other side, at his reality, and his bank account wasn't growing. His creative projects were totally stalled, and his emails were just going into a black hole. It wasn't even failure. It was worse. It was just a flat line.
All that frustration, though, it led him to this really profound and honestly kind of uncomfortable realization. And it was the turning point that changed everything for him.
So when Eli took a hard look at what was really going on in his head, he realized his focus wasn't on abundance at all. It was on fear. He was constantly, subconsciously, trying to avoid being broke, or being ignored, or ending up with a life that just never took off. All his energy was being spent playing defense, not offense.
He wrote this one single sentence down, and it just shifted his entire worldview. He'd been pouring all his energy into pushing against his fears, trying to smother them with positivity. But what if that resistance, that pushing, was the very thing giving his fears all their power?
And this visualizes that shift perfectly. The old way, fighting fear. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You know how that feels, right? It's exhausting, and sooner or later, that thing is going to pop right back up in your face. The new way? He just allowed it. By simply accepting the possibility of failure, he stopped fighting it. And in that moment of surrender, the fear started to lose its grip.
Now, this whole breakthrough revealed something much deeper was going on. Eli started to realize that reality itself seems to operate on a set of, hidden rules.
What Eli figured out really boils down to these three fundamental principles. First, you have to shift the atmosphere. Second, you have to embrace the opposite. And third, you need to dissolve your judgment. Okay, let's break down what those actually mean. So rule number one. This one came to him while he was working at a cafe. The conversations around him were always about scarcity. Rent's going up, tips are bad. He realized he was just swimming in this collective vibe of lack. So he started making these tiny shifts. Instead of complaining with everyone, he'd point out, hey, big catering order today, or feels like there's some momentum. And the entire atmosphere of the cafe started to change. Tips actually got better, customers stayed longer. He learned attraction is atmospheric.
Next up, Eli realized he wanted growth, but at the same time, he was clinging to safety. He wanted to be recognized, but he was terrified of being seen. So what did he do? He saw an ad for speakers at a local meetup, his absolute biggest fear, and he signed up. And by facing that terror, he found his voice. After his talk, people came up to him with offers for collaboration. The point here is crucial. Opposites aren't obstacles. They're the engine. You can't have courage without fear. You can't have expansion without some contraction. The third rule hit him while he was just scrolling on social media. He saw this wealthy entrepreneur and felt this wave of irritation, thinking, must be easy when you're rich. But then he stopped, and he realized that, subconsciously, he connected wealth with arrogance and being selfish. And as long as he held that judgment, he could never become wealthy himself, because who wants to become something they hate? The moment he reframed that belief, a huge contract came through. It was like reality was just waiting for him to get out of his own way.
So, look, understanding these external rules is one thing, but the real work, as Eli found out, it's all internal. It's about rewriting your own programming.
This is a massive insight, and it challenges pretty much everything we've been told about creating the life we want. We're so focused on visualizing what's ahead, but that's really only half the picture.
Because our present moment is constantly being filtered through our past experiences. When a client questioned Eli's pricing, he instantly felt like he was 12 years old again, being told he wasn't a leader.
These old, energetic wounds were still running the show, creating the same old reactions.
So he developed this simple but incredibly powerful technique. First, he'd just sit with an old, painful memory. Then, second, he'd replay it in his mind, but this time he would change his response. He'd imagine himself responding with confidence instead of shame. He wasn't trying to deny the past, he was just releasing its emotional charge, making the present moment feel cleaner, less reactive.
And when you start to put all these pieces together, understanding the rules, rewriting your own code, your entire perception of the universe just begins to shift. And this is the state you eventually arrive at, alignment. It's really just when what you think, what you feel, and what you do are all in sync, all singing the same song. You stop trying to force positivity or fight off fear. You're no longer chasing outcomes. You're mastering the internal state that actually creates them. This quote from the source material just perfectly captures that final transformation. It's the difference between feeling like a victim of your circumstances and becoming a conscious creator in your own life.
Because now you understand the mechanics. You see the feedback loops. You know where your resistance is, what kind of opposite you need to embrace, and what judgments you need to let go of. Life stops feeling so random. It starts to feel participatory.
And that really brings us to the final and most important question. If your inner world is the blueprint for your outer world, and reality is always responding to the signals you're sending out, what are you telling it right now?